Hello, my friends, and welcome to a brand new episode of Discourse in Magic. My name is Jonah Babins, and this is another magician appetizer. That is a bite-sized piece of magic content to act as a little bit of food for thought. And today we're talking about my 3 favorite magic projects of all time that have impacted my magic and my performance the most. These are both things that have impacted it in terms of magic theory. These are things that have impacted in terms of magic effect. And then these are things that have impacted in terms of actual skill and technique in performing magic. So we're going to get right into it, starting with probably my favorite in terms of skill of all time, which is from the one and only Dani DaOrtiz, which is a series called Utopia. Utopia is an amazing series that was put together from Luis D'Amatos, who's put together a ton of incredible different DVD series with lots of magicians. They are completely incredible. And one of the things that Luis does the best is he gets all of the amazing info out of a magician in one session. This Dani DaOrtiz video is, I think it's 4 DVDs. They're each a couple of hours long. And Dani is such a rock star that he's actually done 2 of these with Luis, as well as putting out incredible amounts of content on his own. And if you know me, you know I am a huge Dani DaOrtiz fan. I believe that he has done more for card magic in the last 20 years than any other magician, and it's not even close. And on this series, I learned how to do a lot. And I learned a lot about Dani's thinking. And I'm just going to share with you 2 of those things that I learned how to do. One that I could just gift to you, like a thought that has really changed the way that I do my close-up card magic. And then one is something that I can't gift to you. You kind of have to watch it to learn how to do it. But the first is about clarity. And the best example that I can think of from this is, how does one display 4 cards? And if you're thinking anything other than spreading 4 cards in your hand and showing that there's 4, then you've probably been incepted by the world of magic. If you do Elmsley counts in your magic to show that you've got 4 cards in your hand, know that that's not how normal people show 4 cards, and that kind of thing arouses suspicion. And this is not to tell you that you should take moves and mechanics and tools off of the table from things that you already know how to do in magic, but this is to tell you that a lot of the techniques that we use in magic, we've kind of fooled ourselves into thinking that that's how normal people would do it. Some of you do double lifts where it's this big crazy display for you to turn over 1 card, and that sort of thing arouses suspicion. So since watching this Utopia video series, it's changed the way that I do magic. I no longer do packet tricks where I have to do Elmsley counts and things like that. And anything else, if I look at it and I say, this looks sketchy, if I look at it and I say, this looks sketchy, this is not how I would do that thing. This is not how I would have somebody pick a card out of a deck. This is not how I would have somebody think of a card. This is not how I would have somebody display 4 cards. Then I try not to do it. That's made the biggest impact in how I do basically packet tricks and smaller tricks. And of course, with the removal of things like Elmsley counts and other sketchy looking displays, there's the addition of other techniques that you can use to display 4 cards that feels like it's incredibly clear, but you can still add or remove 1 or 2 or 3. It's just by using different techniques that look more normal and arouse less suspicion. So the first thing I learned from that is basically about some of the things that we do in magic that kind of look suspicious and get people to think suspicious thoughts. And instead, I've tried to swap them out with things that look clear and obvious and don't arouse any suspicion. The second thing that I learned from that series, which probably has had the biggest impact on my close-up card magic, is a verbal timing force. So that's like when you're going through the cards and you say stop whenever you want, do G, and they say stop. And now I've been doing this for probably 10 years from learning from Dani. And at about a 90% success rate, I can get people to stop wherever it is that I want in a deck of cards, using the cards face down, using them face up, or even using no cards and doing imaginarily with objects or numbers or things like that. I can force people when to say stop. And this is a combination of so many things, of psychology, of rhythm, of timing, of repetitions. But this is one of the fairest ways to have somebody pick a card that feels fair and feels really open, but instead you have the location forced. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you can watch videos of Dani doing this kind of thing on Fool Us and on any other videos that you see Dani DaOrtiz. But if you want to learn how he does it, he's got a ton of content out there. But the best way for you to learn how he does it is by watching this Utopia DVD. It's like 10 years old. He looks different. Everything's different. It's a DVD series. I don't know if it's available as a download or anything, but please check out Utopia if you want your card magic to explode. The second project I want to tell you about is solely having to do with effects. This is, I believe, one of the best magicians around right now, and many of you will probably agree with me, but the magician is Aussie Wind. Aussie is one of the best magicians around. I may even argue like the best performing magician right now, maybe in my opinion, let's just say, but he has created some of the strongest effect. And in his book Repertoire, he basically put all of them together. So effects that he's put out individually or solo over the last 5 or 7 or 10 years, he put them all together in a beautiful book. And there are multiple tricks that I do from that book in my working and performing repertoire. And you know that for you to read a book and get multiple things out of it that actually go into your performing repertoire is humongous. I do any card a number tricks. I do other stack tricks from there. I do catch 22. There's a ton of pieces in that book that I do. And he is one of the strongest and most thoughtful performers. And as I mentioned in the previous episode, we hired Aussie to consult on our shows. And it was completely and entirely mind-blowing to hear not only about his opinions and ideas, but also how hard he works on each and every effect, how much time he spends thinking and playing and working and workshopping and bouncing ideas off of other magicians. And I have zero affiliation to this, but he is currently doing pre-orders for his Repertoire 2 book, his next book full of his amazing material. And I got to tell you, Aussie Wind's material and thinking in magic is absolutely astounding. And I highly recommend not only the first book, if you can get it, if it's not sold out, I don't really know, and pre-ordering the second book, which I know I've done because his stuff is just completely and entirely exquisite. So the second project that I highly recommend in magic that has probably made the biggest impact on my performing working repertoire is lots of Aussie Wind's work, but specifically his book Repertoire. The third is a project surrounding magic theory. And you're going to see a theme here in all of the things I'm talking about, which is a lot of this is Spanish magic. Dani is a Spanish magician. Aussie, while he isn't trained under Juan Tamariz, and this final project is from Juan Tamariz, and it's the Magic Rainbow. Now, I'm going to tell you the best thing about it, and then I'm going to give you a little tiny warning about this book, because I know a lot of you own the Magic Rainbow, but you haven't read or finished reading the Magic Rainbow, and I'm going to tell you why. So first thing, what I love about this book is an amalgamation of not only all of Tamariz's work in magic theory of all time, which is exquisite. I think he is the best in terms of magic theory and writing about what magic looks like. And this contains all of his best ideas, all of his ideas, everything he's famous for. The Seven Veils, some of his ideas about performing and routining and things like that. It's all in here. And my claim about this book is every subject you've ever wondered about magic theory is in this book. When to put things, what to say, the role of comedy in magic, timing, theater, rhythm, every single thing that you can think of is in this book. And it is a behemoth of a book, The Magic Rainbow. It's completely incredible. Now, here's my catch about this book. It is filled with 2 sections. The first section, the first quarter of the book, is poems and thoughts and ideas, and it's relatively loose. And if you don't know Tamariz's work very well, if this is your introduction to his writing, it may be a little bit hard to read. If you're used to reading magic books where everything is clear and prescriptive, then it may be hard to read. The second part of the book, the remaining 3/4 of the book, is specific advice about every single topic in magic and magic theory and routining and timing and comedy and everything that you can possibly imagine. So my advice, if you've struggled getting through this book, is skip a bit, get about 1/4 of the way through the book, start reading through it, fall in love with it, use it. You're going to love it in terms of everything. I know I keep saying these things, but he talked about effect selection, routining, timing, rhythm. He talks about the performance itself, comedy, so many pieces, and he really is the expert. It's completely and entirely my favorite book. I probably revisit it every single year, not only to look at a specific section to see what he has to say in that section, but also just to read the book cover to cover. So my advice is skip the first 25%-ish of the book, start about 1/4 of the way through, read the book, and then when you get to the end and you're hoping for more, then go back and enjoy the interesting and unique parts of the first 25% of the book. This is my favorite magic theory book of all time, and up there in terms of my top 5 favorite magic books of all time. And it's huge. It's a humongous book. You're not going to read it in a weekend. It's a big, big, big undertaking to read this and to consume it. And you could use it as an encyclopedia. You don't have to read it cover to cover. You can just look for the section that applies most to you and read that and enjoy it. It is a phenomenal book. And these are the 3 magic products that have affected me the most in the way that I perform magic. It is Utopia by Dani DaOrtiz, a Luis Tomatos production. It is Repertoire by Aussie Wind, an incredible book packed full of his best routines of all time, and The Magic Rainbow by Juan Tamariz. I hope that A, you learn something. I hope that B, you pick up one of these projects, and I hope that C, it affects your magic the way that it has affected mine. These are my most favorite projects, and I love to shout them from the rooftop. Thanks so much for being here. I hope you learned something. There's an amazing interview coming for you next week, and I appreciate your ears. Thanks for being here. Tell a friend about this if you think this podcast is awesome, because I know I do. It's the only way the word spreads. Appreciate you being here. See you next Thursday. Ciao.